Dysfunction. That's the subject for today. Dysfunction and clutter. If this ain't for you, then get off. But if it is for you, we come in peace. So, Alvino, how are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Today was a nice little jury day. Time to relax, clean up a little bit, and it's been nice. It's been nice.
Good, good, good. So, I called you because lately I've been, I guess the last couple of weeks, hyper focused on things in people's houses or the things that people are doing. So, went to a family member's house and the screen door, the handle is broken off, but you can still push the button, but you got to make sure you don't cut your hand. And so,
Uh, uh,
so better. Um, been hyper focused on things in people's houses, their cars, and not even sure why. Not necessarily being judgmental. I went to a family member's house and they have a screen door, and I went to click the handle. The
mhm.
handle is broken off, but you can still push the button to get the screen door open. But you got to be very careful that you don't cut your hand. And I'm thinking, like, I know it's been like this for almost 5 years.
Mhm.
Um, and then I go into another family member's house and it smells like mold. I'm like, is there water? Yeah, there's some water issues. I just don't. You're living and breathing this stuff. So then I go to another friend's house and they're like, don't come in. It's just so dirty, so junky. And I'm like, oh, okay, like can't be that bad. And I'm like, I've known this person for 9 months. It's still dirty. Um, and I'm like, why am I focusing on their mess or what they need to do? So until I start looking at me. And one of the things that I started to do is question myself. I've been wanting to leave home for a while. Like, I got to get out of here. But I was like, I love my house. If I can take my house and move it somewhere else, I would. Um, and I'm like, why don't I like to be home? And I was like, because I've been thinking about moving already, even though I just purchased this house, thinking about moving already, I have not taken the initiative to make this feel like a home, like comfortable, cozy. I still
Mhm.
got boxes I haven't unpacked and things of that sort. And I think that the Holy Spirit was basically like, you're looking at everybody else's dysfunction, but you need to be looking at your own. And in the midst of looking at dysfunction or other people's dysfunctions, I don't know about you, but I think it's like the whole thing of procrastinating when you see a mess. So, and you don't deal with it, I think it causes even more mental health issues because your brain is always thinking about how to get these things done, but you are not with your physical body taking the actions to get those things done.
Mhm.
And so I another thing that I thought about was that um uh a lot of us are rock stars outside of the home. So the two people, one's a realtor, one's a contractor, things of that sort. We are rock stars outside of the home. We got the mask on, the makeup, the hair, the shoes. We fly. The world looks at us as fly. And
Mhm.
we are taking care of business. We're taking care of our tenants. We're taking care of everything outside of the home. But when we come home, the dishes are piled up, mouse droppings everywhere, laundry unfolded. One was using a bed as a laundry basket. That's how many clothes they had on the master in their master bedroom. I don't even know where they slept. Light bulbs that are flickering and been blown out for years. Um, these are signs of dysfunction. And I think that, like I said, the handle at one of my family members' house was like 5 years. And so we are going from one thing to the next and never slowing down and dealing with ourselves. It frustrates me when people try to give me advice and I look at their lives. I'm like, how? And they say to me, "You don't listen to me." And I'm like, "Have you? Did you open your door? Did you go in your house?
The
Does it
hot
look messy?"
calling the kettle black type stuff.
Right? How you gonna tell me what to do? Because I'm a person who watches by example.
Mhm.
Um, but I think there is something into that, and I'm not sure all that God is trying to show me, but I can't honor God in clutter. I can't honor God in mess. And
Mhm.
so my 3-story home, I've been purging, getting rid of stuff. Last weekend I bought to create a atmosphere of feeling like home. I bought a diffuser, and
Mhm.
so it smells fresh and clean in the house, and I'm like, "Ooh." So then I vacuum, and then I washed some clothes and folded them. Then I hung up some curtains. I did a lot of stuff in the last 2 weekends. I'm about to paint the hallway. Now, granted, I'm only going to do home stuff on the weekends and not on the
Mhm.
weekdays 'cause I have other stuff to do. But I think that people need to carve out time for themselves to take care of themselves, because if we do not deal with our own dysfunction, it's almost like somebody who knits you a sweater. That nice and chunky knit sweater, and it gets caught on something, and you keep walking away, and you know it's caught, and you're just come
Mhm.
on, and you just continue. It's gonna continue to unravel. And
Mhm.
when you look up, you're butt naked. So that mask that you were wearing comes off, and the people are like, "What happened to her? What
Mhm.
happened to him? Like, what is going on?" And so we know that clutter is a sign of trauma.
Mhm.
It's one sign of trauma, but even in the trauma, you still need to get some kind of help, some kind of support. And it took me years. Like I remember I'm an organized, neat person. So I know that something's going on in here when there's clutter all around.
Mhm. And I agree. I agree wholeheartedly that one, it accumulates. So like
Right.
one piece of clutter, something you've been ignoring, and you just keep ignoring it, and then something else comes up. It just the situation just keeps unraveling. That's where I found myself in. Like I've been the messiest I've ever been in my life thus far, and it's funny. I had my mom come over and help me clean up my apartment, and she was just like in shock. She's like, "You didn't grow up like this. You was a neat freak when you was a kid, and
Uh-huh.
keeping helping keeping me keeping things neat and stuff." So it was like this is something that's recent, and even like
Right.
remember you came to my first apartment. Um, it was very bare. There was nothing in there. Only the thing you critiqued was like, you need a dust in here. It was like it's freaking dusty in here, and I never dusted before, so that was like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
I guess I need to do that. But I didn't have anything. But now I don't know what happened between those years and this. I found myself couldn't even see the floor. So much stuff, and it was an accumulation. Like I would ignore something, like I get to it later. Oh, it's not a big deal. Everything wasn't a big deal and can be put off for later. And
Right.
I found myself treating my instead of treating my apartment as a home, I was treating it as a storage unit. And
Right.
I don't know what causes that. One thing that when I analyze myself, and only thing I could think of is to treat a space as a home is a commitment similar to choosing like your first job or your first career. You feel like if you lay down your roots here, you can never change it again.
Yeah.
And
And I think it's also a lack of self-love,
yes, for sure.
because
Mhm.
there's some people, and I used to be like you, like when I was in Virginia, I had this apartment, and Miss Sharon's like, "You need to buy some furniture," and I'm like, "I'm moving, I'm leaving."
Yeah.
8 years later. um but I think it's a lack of self-love.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, you will take the shirt off your back and give it to somebody even though you know you need it. You will take the time out and work 10 to 12 hours um volunteering, but
Mm-hmm.
you won't take 2 hours to wash your dishes, to take out your trash,
Mm-hmm.
to create an atmosphere that is conducive for you to be happy and to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
We have a problem here, especially in America. I don't know anywhere else because I don't know many people, but in my sector of friends, not all, but some, people are dysfunction, but it comes from some kind of trauma because who told you that you weren't allowed to practice self care? Who told you you couldn't love yourself? Who told you you couldn't celebrate yourself? Because celebrating yourself, people would say, oh, you're arrogant. It's not arrogant, it's called love. Because how can you love somebody else when you don't love yourself? And
Mm-hmm.
so old dude right from around the way was like, yo, I love you, I want to marry you. And I'm like, you're a hoarder. And he's like, but I have trauma, trauma, trauma. And I get it, but how are you moving and working through that trauma? That is not a sign of self-love, that is a sign of self-deprivation.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody else, the voices in your head, but everything reality wise, nobody is not telling you not to take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
How can you take care of a woman? How can you cherish me and you don't cherish yourself? Because to look at yourself is to honor me.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And
And so, yeah, so who told Alvino that you can't make your house a home?
no
And
one
it
told
could
me.
be temporary.
Yeah, and I think, as I'm thinking about it now, it's less someone told me. It was
No one ever told you.
no, people have told me that I deserve this. That I think what is more of I've experienced. I don't know. I can't pinpoint what trauma comes from at this time, but when I think about my mentality
I don't
over
think
these
it's
over these
trauma for
recent years,
you.
these
Could it
mhm.
could it be unhappiness?
No, it's that I've endured these things in my world. Uh, I can put up with this. I can. I managed to put up
Mm.
with a discomforting thing. This thing that's in my home that's discomforting. It's nothing compared to this. So it's like it's an attitude of struggle, but it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary.
Let's dig into it. Attitude of struggle that is
Mm-hmm.
unnecessary, and lots of people have that attitude.
Mm-hmm. I can put up with
I'm
this because of
fine.
it.
I'm
Yeah.
fine with a little.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I don't need much.
You're gonna
So
unfind
there
and
are
I don't
some.
need much to death.
Yeah, I don't need much. So my sister Sherry, um, she creates an atmosphere wherever she goes, good, bad, or
Mm-hmm.
indifferent. She creates an atmosphere. She brings her own pillows, her own bedding, and it's a lot. She brings her own cleaning products. She brings her own smell good. She creates an atmosphere wherever she goes.
Mm-hmm.
And well, no, not just an atmosphere. She's bringing her standard
Mm-hmm.
wherever she goes. She say, these are the sheets that I want me and my child to sleep on. This is the standard of clean that I need the bathroom. This is the standard of smell good that I need around me because it soothes me. So she's bringing her standard wherever she goes. And
Mm-hmm.
so my other sister be like, you're doing too much. And to some people it might be too much, but it's just right for her.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people it's too much because we have deprived ourselves from, in our mind, what we think a standard would be. And we will hold somebody else to that standard, but we will not hold ourselves to that standard. And we wallow in dysfunction, in complaining, in excuses, and then wonder why we stay broke. wonder why we stay broken, wonder why we're lonely. It's because you need to raise your standard. And you want everybody else to come down here and be like, are you okay? Doing all right down there, buddy? Oh, I don't know. Sorry, my mind went somewhere else. Whew,
You good?
bring it in, man. Sorry.
No, but you're right. We need to understand where we want our standard, and then take it with it. That's a fine example of what Sherry is doing. Instead of
Yeah.
relying on other people to meet our standard or accommodate our standard, take it with you and create that vibe.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah. Exactly. Let me play this clip by this lady who talks about disclutter and function. She's not necessarily a therapist, um, but she also share. Okay. But she shares her own journey. Let's listen.
Studies show that people with a lot of clutter around their homes
Can you hear
have a
that?
higher than average rate of anxiety, depression, social isolation, and ADHD-like symptoms. But here's what bugs me about these studies. They assume that all these symptoms are caused by clutter, and therefore, if you clean up the clutter, you won't be depressed and stuck anymore. You'll be happier, more focused, more connected to other people. And honestly, there's some truth to this. But that doesn't mean that clutter is the main cause of those problems. I'm going to put a bold hypothesis out here, and that's that clutter is just one more symptom of trauma alongside depression, anxiety, isolation, and so on. But it's not the direct cause of those symptoms. Now, we know that trauma affects people neurologically, and that means your brain, your physiology, your feelings, and your behavior patterns. Now, trauma can make people compulsive. It can fill your thinking with stressful thoughts. It can make you feel immobilized and unproductive. It does something to your neurology that is quite often expressed as cluttering behaviors, accumulating stuff that you don't need and piling it up around your living space or working space.
Diabetes,
Coronary
disease,
autoimmune diseases,
obesity.
Commercial in here. Sorry. Skip. Go.
Intending to get organized at some point in the future, but not having the inner power to do that. And I think cluttering behavior is a trauma-driven version of something normal and natural that we call nesting behavior. And nesting, that's setting up your home space, making it comfortable and warm and orderly and well-stocked, which is a good and natural instinct. But like all good instincts, trauma can push this one over the line into something over the top. And that's what cluttering is, that good instinct at an amplified level that makes it not good, that is caused by and causes a feeling of overwhelm and inability to get organized or to take action by cleaning up your stuff. So you have too much food and...
So that was interesting. Nesting, the word that she used. Did you pick that up?
Yeah, I picked that up.
Because I know a lot of hoarders, and years ago, my mom, when she lived in her house, she started hoarding. She was buying everything. You barely could walk through this 4-bedroom house, 3 stories, and somebody said, your mom's hoarding because she's lonely.
Mm-hmm.
She's hoarding because she's trying to fill the space, and it must do something to her mind to be in that big old house all by herself and only be hearing. And this is why the TV's so loud, the TV's blaring, because she doesn't like the silence.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad because people who are and when that is their trauma response, they don't see how it affects those that are around them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. As she was speaking, I was thinking back to my space, and I had a lot of Amazon boxes So much Amazon boxes. Like, why did I buy so much stuff? And it would be duplicates of the same stuff. And I think back over the last several years, it's like I had like a lot of projects I was doing. Like I had a
Right.
lot of projects, groups I was engaged with. My mind was overwhelmed. And I just kept
Right.
on buying supplies for different stuff. Oh, I'm going to need this, so let me buy a bunch of this. And
Mm-hmm.
whenever I felt the inclination to clean,
Mm-hmm.
or the clutter just got too overwhelming, usually it's when I took something off my mental checklist or
Right.
something, whatever, one of the things that was boggling my mind or cluttering my mind. I got rid of it, and then I was like, I
Right.
feel a little lighter, my head feels a little less heavy, and then I clean up just a little bit, but never enough to truly attack the problem, you know.
It says like I said clutter. I googled clutter is a sign of, and it says clutter can be a sign of procrastination.
Hmm. Can't hear you. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. You're muted. Ex-
Can you hear me now?
yeah.
That's so weird. So anywho, I hope the quality is just as good.
Yeah.
Um, So I typed in on Google, clutter is a sign of. And it says that clutter can be a sign of procrastination, overwhelm, or need for a more organized mind. It can also indicate an underlying mental health issue like anxiety, depression, or ADHD. It is also linked to emotional and psychological factors such as stress, trauma, and feeling of shame and guilt. So there's psychological and emotional signs, which we talked about. And then there's the health related, which we also talked about. And then it says creative expression. Creative thinking, some studies suggest a link between clutter and creativity, noting that messy environments may encourage a more non conventional thinking, which I don't agree, as famously exemplified by Albert Einstein in A Cluttered Desk. So I think that,
That's the same organized mess.
right. And so I believe that we serve a God of order. And so when we speak of God of order, how do we know that? And I want to say in Genesis chapter 1, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the water, and God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God said, and God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. To me, that is order, because he took two components that operated in two different ways and separated them and gave them their own place. He didn't let them mingle or commingle. And it says that he divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day and gave it a function. And the darkness he called night. And in the evening and in the mornings were the first day. And so, even in the beginning, as they state, that God is a God of order. And so, as an artist, I have been taught, Miss Sharon used to always say, like, you can't, you can't create in clutter, or at least not the good clutter. I remember when I went to the Art Institute and they would give us all these different books and show us all these artists. All they said that a lot of artists would start off good, like drawing a cat, drawing a mouse, drawing their moms, their dads, their neighborhoods. And next thing you know, they were just drawing vaginas and penises and cats being bunked by a grown man. Like just crazy. And then it'd be like twisted and distorted. And people can get into all kinds of things, but because they had a cluttered mind and a cluttered soul, they were producing what they were and what they were in.
I feel like I feel like there's Freudians out there, people that like Sigmund Freud. They're like chopping at the bit right now. Like, ooh, your subconscious thought about sex and stuff like that you've been holding back. They're coming to the surface through your art. Uh,
It might be how some people are, but in reality, so I'm like, I was paranoid because I'm like, I don't want to be like, I want to be great, but I don't want to be like these people. I don't want to be like creating pornographic images for a living. Um, I want to
for
create beautiful art.
uh,
I want to create. When I write my poems, I don't want my poems to always be about cutting a man. I want to write about love. I want to write about love, ladies and gentlemen. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, so dysfunction, I think, is something that, you know, I I've lived in. I may not can't talk in terms of the psychological reasons and all that jazz as to why, just a few nuggets here and there. But I think the main thing that I want people not to just focus on is your dysfunction. I want you to understand or think about, not even understand, think about what is your standard?
Mhm.
What is your standard in your hygiene, how you clean yourself, how you brush your teeth? Do you floss 3 times a day after every meal? What is your standard of, are you wearing the same pair of jeans 5 days a week? What is your standard? Is your car clean? What is your standard? Are you a litter bug and you just be throwing trash when the garbage can is right there? Maybe that is your standard and maybe you're okay. But if that is not your standard, what is your standard and how do you move towards that? How do you walk in it? Because no more excuses. This is the season, because life is short, is to learn to love ourselves, to understand what is our standard and work towards that. Work towards the God part of you and not the clutter, not the chaos, not the trauma of the past. But as you're moving towards your standard, I think then you will begin to be so irritated and so frustrated that hopefully you'll move towards therapy. You'll move towards a mentor or a counselor. You will get the help that you need. But that is the purpose of this conversation. And even for me, it was like, okay, why am I hyper focused? I'm hyper focused because I'm looking at their dysfunction when I need to be looking at mine,
Mhm.
and not from a place of condemnation, but from a place of, if you really want to move forward, you got to bring order in every area of your life, in your home, in your finances, in your relationships. There's some people that don't serve the standard that you need to cut off.
Mhm. And I feel like when it comes to creating that standard for yourself, uh, the art of visualization. So, like, imagining how you want your life to be, and not just in the picturesque music video when you're thinking of your fantasy life, but in the quiet moments. What is your quiet moments and your standard and your fantasy life? What would it be?
Mhm.
How would you how would you wake up and brush your teeth in the morning? Like you said, how would you get dressed for the day? You know, the
Right,
little the things that aren't exciting and sexy as you
right,
use visualization. How maybe that can help bring context, bring a standard. It
right.
is funny that we're having this conversation about messes and stuff, and there are flies coming in and attacking my apple right now. I'm like, yeah, I just see flies on my camera. I'm like, okay, um,
I don't think we see them.
okay, that's just getting to me. But yeah, I think the art of visualization will help people create that standard, and and if you need help, like if you piggybacking on what you said, if your issue has to do with guilt or shame, um, therapy helps. Being able to find someone to talk to about these things and work it out. Because if you don't have a context, you don't have a space to ground yourself and figure out how to attack these issues, it's going to feel
Mm-hmm.
daunting. You're not going to realize you have the issue sometimes, uh,
Right.
but you're just going to feel the rippling effects of it in your environment and in your day to day. So if you can
Right.
seek therapy, if you can't have someone to talk to from the outside looking in, please do so.
Right. Yeah. And I believe, like you said, there is the power in visualization. I remember when I was in Virginia and I had a conversation with a friend. First thing I did was go home and I stood in the middle of my apartment and I had my eyes closed, like, and I'm like, Tamara, and I'm asking myself these questions like, how do you feel? I'm like, I feel muggy. And I said, well, what do you, and then I responded back and said, well, what are you going to do about it? And I was like, go get a dehumidifier. And so I got back in my car. Thank God I had the money. Drove to Home Depot and got a dehumidifier. Turned it on for like an hour. Went back in the room. I said, "How do you feel?" I said, "Oh, I feel so much better." And I was just like, those little check-ins with yourself, because when we get home, because of the stress of the world, the stress of work, it's easy to go on airplane mode.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy just to be like, let me get these clothes off, let me get these kids fed, let me go to bed, I'm tired. And we get up and we do it all over again. And I know they say that geniuses create and clutter. Some people can create and clutter, but the majority of us cannot.
I know that.
And I seen a study, and I wish I would have saved it. I seen something today that was basically saying that the top CEOs, they hyper focus on one thing. And so the things that are low hanging fruit that they can pay other people to do, wash clothes, wash dishes, cook meals, they're paying people so that they can hyper focus on this one thing so that they can grow it to be successful, because they know that one thing is going to not just benefit them but benefit others.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to declutter. And the first thing we need to declutter from is
Facts.
the texting, the emailing, the social media, the doom scrolling. Um, yeah, we definitely need to get hyper focused.
I found myself even today, like doing those, like you said, doing those check-ins, minding your mind. But even today, I was scrolling on Facebook and I saw someone post something I very much disagreed with.
Uh
Um,
huh.
and I literally caught myself just sitting there pondering for 30 minutes, having an imaginary argument with this person based off their talking points. But I was like, and I had to catch myself. Why am I thinking about this? Why? Why is this? I just wasted 30 minutes not doing
30
anything.
minutes in
Just
an argument with an imaginary person.
yeah, and I was like, "Yo, that just owned me for a second." Now my mind was cluttered. This is so much, and there's no fruit that was gained from it.
Wow.
And me personally, I know I do that. I have to kick myself out of it, but everyone else maybe has something else that's like that impacts your mind and clutters
Hmm.
it up, filled with useless thoughts that don't serve us. We gotta be careful of the thoughts we have, the thought loops that we have. Make sure that
Right.
they serve us. You know.
Yeah, man. And our kids are watching and they're picking up those habits. And so we have to start, cutting out the noise, for ourselves, for our children, for our family. And because the clutter leads to burnt out, the
Yeah.
clutter leads to dysfunction, the clutter leads to you screaming and yelling. So it may, and so hear me clearly, it may not be just a physical clutter, it can be a mental clutter.
Mm-hmm.
that is leading to emotional breakdown. You have so much on your mind. And
Yeah.
so pick up a planner, do it old school, do it, digital, journal, get those things off your mind and prioritize which one you're going to focus on first. And do it weekly. Have a check-in for yourself weekly. Check in with your mental, your emotional, and your spiritual. Be praying daily, asking God to help you to clean, showing you where you need to start, how to start. If you don't hear him, you know probably already what you need to do. And so I just hope that this conversation, this beginning of this conversation, helps you, it helps us, because we're all in this together. Why? Because God is our GPS. We are all on this journey. We are struggling in some areas, and other things we're learning. We're learning and growing as a community. And so, any final words, Alvino?
Now, just declutter your mind, declutter your space, make room for the things that serve you, and don't be afraid to sit down with yourself and have those check-ins. Much of the external world is a distraction. We have to pay credence to our internal world, and then if we have the luxury, focus on the out.
Right. So, let's engage in the comments. Let's hear one thing that you're going to be laser focused on for the month of October, for November, or the end of the year. What is 1 to 3 things that you are going to be laser focused on that you're going to deal with? Why? Because you're raising your standard. You're moving towards your standard. You're moving towards the God standard, because God wants you to operate from the God place and not the carnal place. God wants you to operate from a healed place and not a trauma place. God wants you to operate from a king and queen place. Why? Because, ladies and gentlemen, he said that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And on that note, we'll see you soon. Bye.